everyone, Alec Tackmann here. We are working our way through GoAndPractice Book 2. Today we're checking out page 17, 18, and 19 at the same time. I'm going to just group these all together. These have to do with ruffs. R-U-F-F-S. Now, ruffs and drags, the terms can be used kind of back and forth a little bit. I have different books that say different things. So when I was writing this one, I was a little bit hesitant, in my approach here on which should be called which, but I've kind of found that in modern interpretations, the drag is the one that has the double, and the ruff sounds the same, but is played with a single stroke. So whether you're doing a quick one or that, it's a difference in sticking. Now, old books might have them flipped the other way, but just be aware of the difference, and just be careful of whatever situation you're in, which one you're using. So ruffs, as I'm going to call them in this book, are essentially like a primary stroke that's enhanced with X amount of grace notes. In this book I have 3-stroke, 4-stroke, and 5-stroke ruffs, but sometimes you'll see more. So what's happening here is this is going to be a bit of a tie-in from the single stroke roll page before, from the previous page, the previous video, as well as a little bit of the inverted double stroke roll, which is again the page back at the beginning, and another video. So check those out if you haven't done those yet. You want to do those first, probably before you dive into these ones. Now, ruffs are typically done in more of an orchestral or concert band setting. You don't see them a whole lot in a marching band setting. They do show up a lot though in drums. So their purpose here is you want like complete control over playing that sound. And they're also helpful if you need to do that on something that does not bounce. You can also do a ruff on a xylophone or a marimba. So we need a quick twitch of the hand, and then accurate placement of the downbeat. So let's kind of dive into number 1 first. Number 1 is quite simple. It's just playing a ruff on beat 1 of every count. The third measure is a little bit different. You want to have a metronome going for this, and because there's like a lot of rests in here, you might be tempted to do it at a faster tempo, but go ahead and do a slower speed, just so you give yourself time to think and really place that downbeat. So like number 1, you're just gonna have, oops, sorry, do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And then the downbeat is the most important thing that matters. Okay, now let's talk about this a little bit. The 2 grace notes are gonna be quiet. Slow motion is just Those 2 little notes are not in time, and they should be a little bit less. Now if I'm doing a right-handed 3-stroke ruff, it's again going to be a slow motion version of it. My left hand only needs to play 1 note. That is a very easy job. My right hand though has to do a soft stroke and a loud one as quickly as you possibly can. The other one just kind of falls in that gap. So it's all about that snapping out of the 2nd note of the double stroke. So that's the same thing as we had done before in the inverted double stroke roll page. So if you're not comfortable with doing those, learn those first. That's going to help us quite a bit. Now, most people, I think, I definitely do myself, but I've noticed with my students, they tend to favor either a right-handed or a left-handed versions of these. And I found it doesn't really it doesn't necessarily matter if they're right-handed or left-handed. If you have your favorite, you can just go ahead and default to that. Every time you see a ruff written in with no sticking, just do whatever one you want, it's fine. But it's good to know how to do them both. So if we look at number 2, it's the same as number 1, but we have a left-handed ruff. Again, it's tricky to snap it out. Don't worry about if you can't get those two grace notes really quick and fast. It doesn't have to be that way. You just don't put them in time. So like if we're going to play like number 3, don't do this. Don't go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3. We don't want that. If the writer of your music or the author or whatever had wanted that, they would have just written in the counting. So it should be number 3. Now, a standalone ruff is one thing. A whole other thing is, if we look at number 4, is attaching a ruff to a rhythm. It's just a little piece of decoration out in the front usually. I kind of think of it as like a reverse echo. It leads into whatever it has to be. Now, in number 4, what I would do, and I would do this with any piece you have that has ruffs or drags or flams, all these little extra decorations, is first play it without them, so you get that core rhythm still in your head. So like number 4 is just 1 and 2 and 3, rest, rest, 1, 2, 3, 4. When you add all the extra stuff, it should still sound like that. So don't let your rudiments, your ruffs, your drags, etc., distract from that core rhythm that's supposed to be there. So number 4 is So if we jump ahead to number 5, it's just a few exercises here and there to get used to the quick snapping motion of 3 of them. Like number 6 is a good one, just basically doing back and forth. One EN, 2 EN, 3 EN. The left-hand one is always tougher for me. But anyway, yeah, you'd be surprised if you start increasing the tempo on some of those, how tricky they can be. 7, number 7 brings us into kind of like we had done in the drag page, is learning to having to cram that note into places like, or like moments in time that it would not seem like is even practical or possible. But sometimes the music is just written that way and you just got to do it. So like number 7, it's pretty much steady 8th notes all the way through, and we need to drop in ruffs in there. So we have like 1 and 2. You do see this quite often in orchestral music. Because ruffs and flams also are ways to kind of thicken up a normal note. Sometimes people like to do this to emphasize the note without necessarily accenting it. And sometimes they're in fast passages, so they'll play number 7 a little quicker. You never know. So you got to get the hang of them all. If we look at number 8, same thing. Make sure the rhythm is still there. Without the ruffs, it's 1 and a 2, 3 and a 4. And then you just dress it up. The rest of them just kind of segue you, like number 10 and 11, from taps to flams, ruffs to the end. Now let's flip it over to the next page real quick here. The next page is 4-stroke ruffs. 4-stroke ruffs are a little bit weird because you're going to end on the opposite hand that you started. So there's 3 grace notes and 1 finishing tap. So for this one, I don't know why, but I like to start with my right hand myself. That one's always been easier for me. Ending on the left hand. Now, even though I'm right-handed, having the emphasized note for these is always weirder for me. I've learned over the years to kind of even it out. But for some reason the other way, it's always been way easier for me. I don't know why. But anyway, so this one is basically the same business, just we're now doing a 4-stroke ruff, which means there's less time there's more notes you have to fit in a smaller space, so it gets progressively harder here. But the big difference is going to be that ending on the opposite hand. Like before, don't interpret this as a triplet. You don't want 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. It's not triplet tap. It's just supposed to be this little zoom kind of effect. And these are also, I think, really good to practice on dull surfaces. Other than that, there's nothing, I don't think too much we got to highlight on this page. It's just, you know, adding an extra grace note in there. Moving on to the next page, page 19, the 5-stroke ruffs. Okay, so these are rare, but they do happen. We're back to ending on the same hand you started. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Same thing, don't make it a 16th note. Don't go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just got to be this sound effect. Placing the downbeat in the right moment is going to be a lot harder here. So again, have a metronome going to make sure that you're lining up with that pulse. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and so on. The left-handed ones are way harder. You gotta do 2 quiet taps and a loud one. I always like the right one myself. So it's good to try them both. I've never seen a situation where I've had to play the left-handed 5-stroke ruff, but you never know. It's worth practicing. If we check out like number 4, again we've got a rhythm here now. The rhythm is 1 and 2 and 3, rest, 1 and 2. We're going to dress it up with a 5-stroke ruff. Or you could try it on something dull. Again, make the rhythm sound correct. If you look at number 5, there's a 5-stroke ruff right before a 16th note. So if we go like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You want to make it still sound different from that 16th. The 16ths are in time, the pickup notes are not. A good challenging one here, I think, a challenging exercise on this one is number 8. So for number 8, we have to have it land on 1, the and of 2, and 4, and then the next measure is 2 and 3. So it's essentially the clave rhythm. 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. But we're going to put on all of these the 5-stroke ruff. The downbeat ones are not too tough to do, but the one that lands on the and, 1, 2, and that one is tough. So placement, downbeat, control that is the name of the game on all of these. There's the physical aspect of the speed needed. But the placement of the final stroke is the one you got to be really careful of. And then the final 2 on this page is just kind of a summary. We've got the flam, which is 1 grace note, 3-stroke, which is 2, 4-stroke is 3, 5-stroke is 4 grace notes. They show up all over the place in orchestral music. They can be helpful on the drum set. Just practice them in musical settings. They're a lot of fun to play. Yeah, and also be prepared for ones that are a little bit longer. And then in some settings, it's tempting to like say, well, if I have to do a 5-stroke ruff, like why can't I just double them? You probably could you could get away with it, but not if you were on a timpani, or not if you were on a floor tom probably, or certainly not if you were playing a marimba. So like the strengths for that single stroke roll and the speed and the control is what's going to get you through that one. So if you have any questions, let me know. Again, this is Go and Practice Book 2. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you all on the next one.